Fantasy books. The most common question I seem to get a lot is, I want to read fantasy but I don't know where to start. Can you help me? And the answer is yes. Yes, I can. I am really feral for reading fantasy books. Like, it is a pure deep dark obsession and I love it so much. I think I have some great recommendations in fantasy in general, but with your starter pack I can definitely help with that. So I wanted to dive into this video today and just talk to you about some of my favourite fantasy books that I think first time fantasy readers will want to pick up, the books that I think are going to be the easiest to read to get you into that genre if you've never read it before. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce you to my 6 books. I've got 5 paperback and 1 on my Kindle that I think you will all absolutely love if you want to start reading fantasy. First up, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book, this is such a good time of a book. Is it the most well written piece of literature out there? No, it's not, but truly it doesn't need to be. The vibes are immaculate and it's just so easy to read and follow along with. There's no really big complicated words thrown in there that makes you think, wait, let me go back to that for the 10th time and try and pronounce it. None of that in here. There's no messing around. This book follows Payton, who is powerless in a world full of powerful people. She has no powers at all whatsoever, and she's actually posing as a psychic when the elites are around. The elites are those who have powers, so she doesn't get banished, because if you are powerless you are banished. This is similar to the Hunger Games in the sense that there are purging trials and Payton is really thrown into the deep end to join the trials to showcase their powers, like hers and the elite, but she doesn't have a power. So her father has trained her up to be more observant than the typical person to pose as a psychic. So because she's so observant, she's able to kind of clock onto where people have been, what they're doing, like things like that. So she's actually passed being as a psychic for a long time without anyone asking any questions, because she's just so good at basically being really observant. This book is such a wild ride. Honestly, I could not put this down, and I do think this is great for first time fantasy readers because, like I say, it's not difficult to follow along with. It's such an easy read and it's really enjoyable. It's trials and games, it's forced proximity. I want to say it's enemies to lovers-ish, but I wouldn't say they were like complete enemies, if I'm being totally honest. It has the most gorgeous, slow burn, tension, chemistry filled love story, and it's just incredible. I loved this so much. Yes, it is a bigger book, but you will fly through it, trust me. It's incredible. It'll have you on the edge of your seat, and the ending, insane. My baby, A Course of Thorns and Roses. This entire journey would not have started without this book right here. This introduced me to the world of fantasy. I'd never picked up a fantasy book ever until this one right here. I was off work sick, I was feeling very stressed, very burnt out, I was so bored I didn't know what to do with myself. So everyone talking about this book here and thought, do you know what, I've not read in years, I'm just going to pick it up and try. And then it kind of spiraled into all of this, and now I have a book account on YouTube, TikTok and Instagram. A Course of Thorns and Roses is your very typical storyline in fantasy of a human going into a fae realm. My favourite, it's such a classic and you can't go wrong with it. It follows Feyre, who is our FMC. She's trying to get her family back on their feet. They are living in poverty, they are really poor. Feyre does everything. She carries the weight of her family on her own back. She's out hunting one day and spots a wolf, thinks, great, that's going to be tea tonight for all of us. Turns out she actually kills the wrong wolf, which then leads to a big bang on the door from one of the High Lords, who then takes her prisoner. So that introduces you to Tamlin, who is the High Lord of the Spring Court. What you'll find in ACOTAR is that there are 7 courts and 7 High Lords. The unique world building will have you just so immersed. Sarah J Maas has really got a way of picturing these places so detailed in her own head, and then able to translate that onto paper for then you to see the exact vision that she was seeing. And I truly don't know how she does that so well. but she does, to the point that every time I'm on TikTok and I'm scrolling and I see an ACOTAR AI edit, the spring court looks exactly how I think it would. Same for Tamlin, Feyre. It's incredible just how well everyone gets the same vision from this genius of a woman's writing. There are trials and games in the end of this book. I want to say like the last 30%. It gets tense. It's very action packed and it'll have you on the edge of your seat. The tension between our characters in this book is incredible. I could not put this down. This changed everything for me. Without this, I wouldn't have read so many amazing books as I have today, and I could not recommend this enough. I must say, every single person I've told to read this that then have all said it's been a 10 out of 10 book, and now they are hooked on fantasy. So I think you should trust my recommendations, because judging from what they've said, I'm pretty good at recommending them. The next one is something that you don't really see recommended for fantasy starter packs too much, and that is Throne of the Fallen by Kerri Maniscalco. Also, excuse the cover, like the silver's just all faded and come off as I've been reading, which makes me really sad because I love this cover. Throne of the Fallen is one of my top reads of 2024. I had the best time reading this. It was so much fun. This is again human going into a Fey realm, but the human era in which it's set in is very Bridgerton-esque. So it is very olden times, but it's very beautifully described. So it is very much like Bridgerton, but then goes into the Fey realms. This is trials and games, so that is the main plot and storyline of this book. It follows Camilla, who is human, and Envy, who is one of our 7 princes of sin. Camilla has this artistic gift with painting, and she has to help Envy on his trials and games, and Envy seeks her out because he needs her to paint something for him. The tropes in this are some of my favourite. It's forced proximity, it's fake dating, it's enemies to lovers. It's incredible. I really had a lot of fun reading this. This had vampires, shifters, fae, princes of sin. It's unbelievable. Such a wild ride. It's very jam-packed full of fantasy creatures and beings, but it's so worth it. It's not overwhelming in the slightest, and I do think that this would be an easy read. It's written in the third person. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not my favourite writing style by any means, but I feel like if I love it that much, I quickly forget it's written in the third person, and that's what happened with this. The plot twists in this were insane. I did not see them coming, and usually I'm good at spotting a plot twist before it kind of, you know, is announced in the book. I didn't see these plot twists coming. It's such an easy read, very enjoyable. I think you're gonna love it. Next up, of course, I had to mention this here, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Guys, I know again, same as ACOTAR, you'll have seen this plastered all over the internet, but trust me, it's so worth the hype. I read this after finishing the ACOTAR series, and it was such a good decision. I'm so glad I read this next. This is a normal human world, but there's dragons. Now, I wasn't too sure how to feel about that until I read it, and trust me, incredible. Basically, this follows Violet Sorrengail, who is going to Basquiat. I can't remember, I read that many books. Yes, Basquiat War College, and she's been training her whole life to be a scribe, so like making notes of things that have happened, like historical moments in time, and she is writing history. That's basically what she's doing. She's documenting history, and she's been training for this role her entire life until her mother at the last minute decides to say, no, actually, you're going to be a dragon rider. Violet's got to jump through so many hoops to basically get through the rounds almost to become a rider. Then she is welcomed into the Fourth Wing, hence the book's name. This sees Violet go from someone who we kind of see as being pretty weak to someone who's so strong. I loved her character development in this book so much. She is one of my favourite FMCs. This is also enemies to lovers, but like true enemies to lovers. They hate each other so much. They are mortal enemies. If you like spicy books, you're gonna love this one. Actually, same for these two. This one not so much, but this one is spicy. Back to this one. Fourth thing, yes, it is so spicy. I was obsessed. I loved it. It gave me everything and more that I could have needed and wanted. There was so much going on. It's so action-packed, and I want to say it's like a found family, but in the sense of like friendship-wise, because the friendships developed in this book are so solid that it's just second to none. I love it so much. But trust me, it's such a good book, and I wish I could read this for the first time all over again. House of Blood and Earth by Sarah J Maas. This is a modern day urban fantasy which is so different to the rest of the books that I've recommended, and it's very rare that you find a book that is set modern day. They do have social media, phones, they go clubbing, like everything, you name it, but it's slightly more futuristic and more enhanced. It's incredible. I love how descriptive Sarah J Maas is in this book. Like, it makes me see her vision almost. And this is written in the third person, which I don't typically love, but I forgot pretty quickly because it just gripped me straight away. There's so much going on here. The magic system is very unique. There's vampires, shifters, fae, humans. There's a lot. Oh, and angels. But when I say angels, don't think like the cute, innocent Halo angels. No, 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 no. That's not this. You need to read it to find out the entire details. And I'm not going to spoil it for you. What I love about this book and why I recommend it is because it's so different to the others in the fact that, yes, it's modern day, however, it's also a murder mystery. There's not many fantasy books. I don't think there's any fantasy books actually that I've come across that are a murder mystery. Like, that's the plot and the storyline. It's incredible. It's so interesting to see how Sarah J Maas navigated her way through this being a murder mystery, but still kept the element of fantasy so at the forefront of this book. I do feel like romance is the subplot. Obviously it's there, but it's definitely not thrown in your face. Like, it's not the priority of this book, but it's definitely there lingering in the background. It's enemies to lovers ish. I kind of don't really want to say that actually. They just don't really like each other, to be completely honest. It's almost slow burn, and it's just so good. The ending of this was insane. I definitely think one of the strongest endings of a fantasy book that I've ever read, and it just kept giving me more and more and more. It was unbelievable, and yeah, I know you're going to be intimidated by this, but please don't be. It's so easy to read, and you will genuinely get through it so quickly. And the last one is on my Kindle, and it's Zodiac Academy: The Awakening. Oh my god, this book, I loved it so much. And yes, everyone talks about that too, and it is genuinely so worth it. It's written by the Twisted Sisters, so Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. Is that right? Let me check, because I'm going to feel so stupid if it's not. Suzanne Valenti, so I'm almost right. Unbelievable. It is modern day. It is almost like, picture a more mature, sexy, naughty Hogwarts. Welcome to the Zodiac Academy. That is exactly what it is. It is for more like 18-year-olds plus. And basically it follows our twins Darcy and Tori, who are humans, and they are taken into the Fae realm, and it kind of goes from there. I don't want to spoil it too much. I don't know what I can say without spoiling and giving it away, but yes, it's modern day. There's so many modern day references to like TV and films, which you read and you're like, oh okay, I like that they've added that in there. It feels a bit more relatable, like it's actually happening, even though you know it's not. I can't really explain that feeling, but it's just nice to feel like a sense of it being relatable to like modern day. It's very bizarre. It is incredible. You've got shifters, you've got dragons, fae, literally everything. There are definitely trigger warnings with this book, so do check them. I do urge everyone to check them when I recommend this book. It's like a flipping heck. It's like a bully romance. So it wasn't as heavy as I thought it was going to be, so I was fine with it, and I don't have any triggers. So anyone else out there, please do check your triggers. It's definitely recommended. This book will not be for everyone, and that's totally fine. Like, I completely get that, but it is insane. There are a lot of books in the series, so I am aware it's such a commitment, but trust me, it's so worth it. I actually am dragging out finishing the series because I just don't want it to end, because it is a completed series now. It's very character driven and I love that. Everyone slates it for like the grammar, the bad writing. I do not pay attention to any of that, because again, I am here for the vibes when I'm reading a book, and the vibes were very immaculate. I love them so much and I cannot fault it in the slightest. I really hope that that's been helpful for your fantasy starter pack. These are definitely the books that I will always recommend to everyone who is just starting out in fantasy. I know that it can be a very intimidating genre, especially if you're not sure if it's going to be something that you're going to be interested in or not. But trust me, once you start, you will not be able to stop. And if you don't like any of the books that I recommended, like, that's absolutely fine. Reading is so subjective. What I like, you might not, and vice versa, and that's okay. That's the beauty of everyone having different reading styles and tastes, that there is something for everyone out there. And if you like these books and you want more recommendations, definitely have a look at my TikTok. I am very active on there. I post on there daily with new recommendations, new reviews, constantly talking about books. So if that's what you want to watch, then you can join me over there. The link is down in my description, and you can just, yeah, give me a follow if you want to. But thank you so much for watching another video with me. We do have a reading vlog coming next, so it's going to be a good one. It's been a very good book so far. So once that's finished, reading vlog's going up. Thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, I've been looking for this little rascal everywhere. Let me bump you up. Bam! Oh, she's looking oily. Oh, it's much better. Delightful.